Hi, my name is Milo Melodies and I'm here today at Gear4music. Gear4music, of course, being a wonderful website where you can pick up pretty much any musical equipment you could possibly imagine, including software. And with that in mind, today I'd like to show you Cherry Audio's brand new Mercury-4 synth plugin. So the Mercury-4 is a software recreation of a somewhat lesser-known synthesizer from a legendary Japanese music equipment manufacturer, and the original thing that this is based on was released in 1978, and it had the honour of being one of the first synthesizers that had programmable memory. There were basically 8 buttons on the front, and you could store the sound that you'd come up with into computer memory and recall it later, which was just amazing at the time. You know, in many senses, it's a very simple machine. And to me personally, that just makes it really useful. It's the kind of workhorse synth that you can use on everything. You quickly learn your way around it, and I'll talk you through the feature set in a second. And so it can become a go-to. I really do think so. I mean, some of my most favorite synthesizers made by that legendary company are very similar to this architecture. And so if I just get like a simple kind of like, you know, basic synth sound without too much going on. How good is that? That's really great. Just to sort of blast you through the interface here at breakneck speed, and then we'll go in more detail. You've got one oscillator with a sub-oscillator. We can adjust the mode, noise, a nice low-pass filter, and a high-pass as well. A keyboard follows so that you can track the filter. You've got modulation of the filter here by both the LFO, and there is an LFO that can go slow and very fast, in fact, and has different modes. It also has a onset, so you can have it fade in. And then you've got a filter envelope and a amplitude envelope to control the shape of the sound over time. And then there is also this kind of trigger here. It's like a sort of clock that can clock an arpeggiator, which is down here, or sample and hold, which can be applied to the filter. Like that, which is nice. And then down here you've got tuning control, so you can slightly detune the synth, drift to make it go analog drifty, arpeggiator, and then voice controls to control kind of how the keyboard makes the voice work, chord mode, a hold, and then very nicely, and obviously not present on the original, are Space Echo inspired tape echoes and sort of springy reverb as well, which just sound really nice. So let me take you into the voice and I will just sort of zero this out. Ooh. So what you're hearing, there's like a stereo effect, and that's this ensemble, which if I turn it off, it's like this kind of animated effect. And it was present on the original, and it was really, I think, because it was technically one oscillator. And so I think that the designers thought, we'll add this ensemble effect to kind of fatten up that one oscillator sound, which it definitely does. It creates its own kind of character. You know, it sounds very 80s, although it was the 70s. Now, by the way, you actually are kind of hearing two oscillators because I've got the sub-octave generator on. This is just literally a one switch, and what it does is it just mixes in a sub-oscillator that is 1 octave below the note you're playing, and it's always a square wave. So that's off, on. So there's not like a level slider, it's dead simple, it's just on or off. Could not be easier. You can adjust the range. So depending on the register you want to be in, I actually did map this. You can bit more a bass register. Oh, that's very bassy. Very, very bassy. Ooh. I love those kind of sing-song harmonic things that you get. It most certainly does do them. And so, yeah, you've got a range dial. But the other thing that we have is different waveforms. So I've also got those mapped. That's a saw wave, square wave, and then a square wave, but where we can pulse width modulate, change the width of the square wave. And in this mode, I had mod enabled, and that was meaning that the LFO was controlling that pulse width modulation. And this can just create really wonderful sort of kind of evocative pad sounds, basically, I always find. By turning up this little mod fader, what I'm doing is I'm applying the LFO to the pitch, so I'm also creating vibrato. Doesn't it? And of course you've got the ensemble if you want to add more width and kind of 80s personality. And then if I move down these sliders, the A and the S, we'll get a more plucky sound. It just sounds super 80s, but I like that. So then the filter, this kind of like owl sort of sing-song thing, which is just so typical of this type of synth. And we can get some more kind of modulation in the filter. We've got the envelope modulation here, which is this envelope, which is dedicated for the filter. We can turn that up. And if you sort of play around with the interplay of the cutoff frequency, how high you have the envelope mod, you can make the cutoff kind of pew-pew through the range that you want. Also, depending, of course, on the shape, you can make it go whip. That's a technical term. And then with this velocity, you're controlling how much. Depending on how hard I hit the keys, is how high it goes on the envelope. Yeah, I like a lot of kind of woozy like modulation on the VCO as well. You can hear there was a delay there. That's the delay time on the LFO. And so just to play with the LFO quickly, because I can turn up LFO mod here. So now the LFO is a low frequency oscillator. It's like a slow control signal I can modulate stuff with. And by just turning up these sliders, you apply modulation to the sort of blocks, as it were. So that's the one to let me modulate the filter. And the LFO goes super fast. And in fact, it goes much faster too. If I hit wide, it goes up to 800 hertz. So you can get some really whacked out things. And then there's different shapes as well. So we had sine wave here, but I can have square wave. You can use to sort of usually make kind of telephone sounds. There you go. There's the telephone. Ooh, very, very nearly got the sound from, is that Minimum Maximum by Kraftwerk? I might have that wrong. Might not be Minimum Maximum, but I think you know the one I mean. But very wide-ranging LFO, in short, with... Oh, that's the place. Sorry, that's the LFO place there. Wow. Yeah, there you go. They've been called. And by the way, there is a sync button, and the sync button will let you synchronize it to your host tempo, something that is not possible, of course, on the original device. By the way, there is also noise that I forgot to mention. So if I turn off the sub-oscillator and turn off the waveform here, then we just hear noise, which can be useful for doing kind of percussion sounds like this kind of thing. Good also for doing Kraftwerk impressions. And of course, adding kind of like fluff and sort of vintage vibe to other sounds. So. Nice. And then over here, you've got this trigger section, and the trigger controls an arpeggiator and sample and hold clock. And so we can use this if we use the arpeggiator, but quickly, I'll show you this VCF S&H. This is a sample and hold, which if I turn this up, depending on the rate that is here, is going to affect the filter. And makes that kind of sound, which is cool, and is also a perfect opportunity to introduce you to the effects. Tape echo and reverb. Listen to this. And the other thing is you can synchronize that trigger. You can synchronize these effects as well. So they're really fun. Like the effects become absolutely a part of the sound. They're super vibey and interesting. So they are absolutely not an afterthought or something that you don't think that you would use. Like I've been using these extensively. They're great. And then coming down here, you've got kind of the arpeggio assignment controls, and then these sort of performance controls, kind of more about how we address the voice in different ways. And so just to draw your attention to one of them, which is Unison, if I put it in mono, it's just monophonic, but Unison takes lots of voices and then lets you detune them. Ooh. Wow. That's pretty intense. And just so you can hear the reverb and maybe the tape echo in a little bit more detail, that's the spring. Nice kind of brrrr, kind of spring. The plate. Nice though, dense. And then hall. If you want a kind of like epic synth reverb, I think the plate with the longest decay setting kind of does it. Getting very quickly into Newman territory there. Ooh. Sounds great up there. And then finally, just to mention, is the arpeggio, which is just a wonderful thing for polysynths. If you engage this through different modes, up, down, random, and an ability to constrain the sort of top note of what it can play. But what's nice is it will play in the order that you lay the notes down, and it will move up and down octaves depending on the button that you've got picked. So doing this, let's just quickly make another few sounds, like just so you can get a sense of the kind of things that the oscillator and filter together can do. So get nice and low, add sub-octave generators. We should be able to make a really sort of really like tough bass. Turn up the VCA, really drive it. Turn off the ensemble. Oof. Really mean. Actually, I'll get a little bit of LFO modulation of that going on. Comme ça. And then if we put on Unison. Oh, nasty. Wow. Wow. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, great. So I think that kind of is a bit of a whistle-stop tour. By the way, there is a preset manager, an excellent one where you've just got lots and lots of presets. There's like over 300 presets included. So if you're not a person who twiddles a great deal, but just want to find sounds, they're organized quite well. Chords, you know, keys, bells, basses, arpeggios. Very straightforward. You can quickly find a sound and mess around. By the way, it's also really easy to kind of change the size. You can hit Control and plus and minus and sort of zoom the interface up and down. So you can just make it neatly fill the screen as you kind of see here. So that's kind of the interface. And obviously I've been sort of playing around and teaching myself this synth. And what I've done, I've been just making some music, or trying to at least make music. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a session that I've made. And let's have a listen to kind of Mercury-4 being used as the tool to create a whole track. So, one sec, and I'll load this up. So, we're back. And now I've loaded up my tune that I've been making. This consists of 4 instances of Mercury-4 each doing different things, and then 2 drum machines. Nithinat, which is D16's sort of 606 drum machine, going through Decimort, which makes for this a very sort of tough, burnt sort of sound, which I like very much. Reinforced with a bit of drummers on, 909 style, for a little bit of extra kick. And basically this is a sort of kind of Italo sort of inspired thing, I think you could say. And so the 4 instances of Mercury-4, let's play with them. First one is doing this sort of enormous bass. I've made them little here so that we can actually sort of fit them on the screen. Now, I've cheated a little bit here because I've got a huge Unison sound. But I've put Arpeggiator on Ableton because you can't unfortunately arpeggiate with the built-in arpeggiator with Unison enabled. So using Ableton's arpeggiator is a good hack. And basically I've got this bass line, still MIDI mapped by the way. Whatever I've got kind of live here, whichever instance I can control. And then there are more instances of Mercury, but what I'll do is add the beat in and we'll just kind of play along and talk. Next instance of Mercury. Nice. And that is saw waves. Just a classic sort of paddy sound. Yeah, kind of twinkly sort of sound in the background. That is sample and hold. So that's sample and hold to the filter. Yeah. And then the 4th sound is this kind of like softer sort of bright sound coming now. Classic. So there you have it. What a fun thing this is to mess with. And I hope it's given you a flavour of the kinds of things that Mercury-4 can do. I mentioned, of course, and we're here in the Gear4music channel and world. And so if you do want to pick up Mercury-4, it is for sale. There are links in the description. You can pick it up directly from Gear4music. It is a crazy price. I mean, like, really, for what this is, I will be using it. So check it out. Links below. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe. There will be more videos by myself and others. So thanks very much. We'll see you next time. Bye.